Hi, this is Michael Waitze and welcome back to the Thailand GameChanger. It's good to have you here. Don't say anything yet. This show is focused on the driving forces behind the startup ecosystem in Thailand and Southeast Asia, produced by this amazing place, True Digital Park, in conjunction with Michael Waitze Media. We have, and today we have again, the most informative and insightful conversations with startup founders, venture capitalists, and senior leaders from tech giants and the government, all recorded in this studio at True Digital Park. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Parima Petcharapirat, a co-founder and the chief financial officer, the CFO at EdVisory, and the product owner at WeSpace. Prim, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I am super. It's great to have you here. Look, just so people can get a little bit of context, can you give us a bit of your background? And when you're done doing that, I'm really curious why you're so passionate about education.
Yeah, sure. Actually, my name is Parima Petcharapirat, which you already said, but you can call me Prim.
Thank you.
I'm 27 last month, and
Happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you so much. I graduated from Chulalongkorn Business School. Yeah, my major is banking and finance.
Awesome.
Yeah, and after I graduated, I worked for a well-known commercial bank for a while.
Which one? Can you say?
Yeah, K-Bank.
K-Bank, got it. Okay, great.
Yeah, and then I quit my job to start my own startup. Yeah, that is my background.
Okay.
In short.
And let's ask why you're so committed to education. Where does the passion come from?
Actually, we have to go back to when I was in my high school year.
Go ahead.
All of my friends, they apply for the medical school.
Oh.
It's not because that they want to be a doctor, but it's because that the society want them to be a doctor because they are smart, right, and they are in like top school, เตรียมอุดมศึกษา, you know.
Right.
So they all apply for medical school, and one day I went on like a school open house at Chulalongkorn Medical School with my friend.
Okay.
And I found out that I was so afraid of blood and germs. So that was the first time in my life that I truly think for myself what I want to be in the future.
Right. So this is an interesting topic, which we'll get to later. How do you figure out what you want to do in life? Let's not talk about that yet, right?
Okay.
But it's a really good point. And just to let you know, in my society in the United States, very similar. Your parents just bang into your head every day.
Yeah,
you should be a doctor. You should be an engineer, without even understanding like what it really means. And it turns out my brother's a neurosurgeon.
Oh, really?
But I'm like you.
Good for him.
I'm like you. When I start bleeding, I get nervous. I don't like blood. So I don't think there was any way I could do it. Anyway, go ahead. So when you quit your job at K-Bank, what did you decide to do after that?
Let's continue from what I said.
Go ahead.
I realized that I would not be a doctor for sure.
Okay.
So I start to talk to a lot of people, like my parents' friends, and I also read lots of books.
Okay.
And one book did inspire me. It's a book about a business consultant.
Okay.
He helped a lot of Japanese companies to like improve their business and help them to not go bankruptcy.
Okay.
So I think doctor can save life and help people like one at a time.
Right.
But as a businessman or a business consultant, they can save life and help improving people's life like thousands or millions people at a time.
At scale.
Yeah, at scale. So that inspired me a lot.
What was the book?
I can't remember the name actually, but I read a lot of books.
No, fair enough. I'm sure you've read a ton of books.
But I can still remember the context.
I get it.
And that inspired me to apply for business school. And after I studied in business school, a lot of my friends, they complain about their life in medical school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's hard.
Because they were not happy with what they study and all the work. So it's the first time that I start to think about education, because they are like the best student in Thailand, but they still have problem with education. And what about the others, like someone who in the rural area? So I work as a volunteer teacher to teach English, of course, because I want to improve my English. And I found out that a lot of Thai students also have a problem in education. They don't see the importance of education. So like more than half of them say that they will quit the school after they graduate grade, I don't know how to say it in English, but it's like Mathayom 3.
Right. So in other words, they have to go, by law, they have to get to that level.
Yeah.
And after that, it's not mandatory.
Yeah.
And you think a lot of students, is this in the countryside, in upcountry, where they say this, or is this all over Thailand?
All over Thailand, even in Bangkok.
That's really interesting. And why do you think that is?
I mean, I think it's because that they don't see the importance of the higher education. If they quit the school right now, they can like already make money by becoming a motorbike rider or help their parents sell little stuff. That's what I think.
Okay. And what do you think is going to change their mind to think that maybe a higher education or more education is better? Obviously, from your perspective, you went to a great high school, you went to a great university, and you were surrounded by well-educated people most of your life. You must know the difference, right? Yeah, I know the difference because those students, they don't see like their own future with higher education. They don't know that if they have the opportunity to pursue higher education, that their life will get better. So what I do is just help them like reflect themselves of what they are good at and what they want to be in the future. Okay. And then I try to like persuade them to go for like higher education, and I also introduce the scholarship for them. What does that mean, a scholarship? In other words, university is not cheap. Yeah, I know. Right. But actually, there are tons of scholarship given by the university in Thailand. Okay. But still, the students don't want to get the scholarship because they think it's like an opportunity cost for them. Really? Yeah. So go ahead. So, but how do you? What's the platform that you use for convincing students to do this? I have a product called WeSpace. Okay. WeSpace come from work and education space for all. But WeSpace is also part of EdVisory. Yeah. So let's back up a little bit and talk about what EdVisory does, and then talk about where WeSpace fits in. Okay. EdVisory is a blend word, come from education and advisory. Got it. Yeah, together is advisory. Basically, we provide consultation and IT implementation in education and human development field. Okay, but then who are the clients? In other words, if you're doing IT implementation, is it the schools you're working with? Is it the students you're working with, or is it some combination of both? Most of the clients are large corporate and the government agent. Okay, so how does that work? We have 3 services. Go ahead. The first one is the consulting service. We also provide consulting in education area and also human development area. Okay. So one of our work, which I am really proud of, is the research that we do for the Ministry of Education. Got it. Because they want to change the standard curriculum for basic education. And we suggest them that competency-based education is the future for our students. What does that mean? In the past, we study for only knowledge. We have to memorize everything, right? Right. But in the future world, I think it's good for the student to learn how to like act or behave very well instead of just know it. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. In other words, for me, so my daughter went through an IB education. And one of the things that they do in an IB school was they don't teach you facts. Yeah. They teach you how to get facts. Yeah, how to understand facts, right? And how to understand the relevance of information that you're getting, how to understand what is true and what is false, right? So in that sense, you become very competent at looking at a situation and trying to figure out, is this the right thing to do? They also teach them how to be global citizens. Yeah. Right. So how your social behavior and your social interaction dovetails with your education. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So we want our students to have like problem-solving skill, right. Communication skill. Instead of remember English grammar, right. We want them to like
comfortable with trying to communicate in any language.
Right.
That's what we would like the student to be in the future. So we did a research for the Ministry of Education on which competency the student should have.
So can you tell me what some of those competencies are?
Yeah, sure. For example, like communication, problem solving, self-directedness.
Self-directedness is really important, I think.
Yeah, it's important. Emotion management.
Emotion management.
Yeah.
Why is that so important? And did that surprise you when you did this research?
Yeah, a little bit.
Right?
But I think it's pretty important.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, because nowadays, as you can see, that a lot of students has like the depression, and I think it's come because they don't actually realize what they think or what is the root cause of the problem, and they can't deal with their emotion.
Got it. And are you doing ongoing research, or do you do just that one piece of research paper for the Ministry of Education and then you just try to act on that?
The research actually already ended, and the ministry, they use that research to be like the base for developing the new curriculum.
Got it. How long do you think it takes to, maybe we should back up a little bit and maybe you should tell me what you think the status is of the Thai education system at scale, and then we can talk about how that changes and how much time it's going to take to change.
Oh my God, how much time?
I have plenty of time.
I would say...
Let's just start with the status, right? So when you look around at the education system, you know you were well educated because you went to one of the best high schools, not just in Bangkok, but in Thailand. And then you went to the premier university in Thailand as well and studied one of their premier curriculums, yeah? But when you look around at the entire ecosystem, how does it look to you?
I think it's not good enough for me,
Fair
actually.
Enough.
Yeah, it's not good enough. And there's still like a huge gap between the student on the top and the general student. And I don't want that to happen. So what we're trying to do is that to make the quality education possible and, you know, like available everywhere in Thailand.
Got it. And how long do you think that takes to do? And like, what are some of the key things you think that need to change along the way to do that?
Oh my God. I think it's not going to take a lifetime.
It could though. See, I think this is a generational change, right? Because not only do you have to change the curriculum, but you have to then educate the teachers to be able to teach that curriculum and get them to understand why it's so important.
Yeah.
And then in the interim, the students that are already in school, it's kind of hard to change their trajectory. In other words, you can go from the next generation and start when they're 2 years old or 3 years old and say, okay, 2 hours a day you're going to learn English. 2 hours a day you're going to learn emotional management. 2 hours a day you're going to learn these competency-based skills while you're also learning math and science. But it has to start super early, I think. Yeah? No?
Let's go to the other question. How long does it take first?
Go ahead.
People said that when you come to education sector, you might not see the result in your lifetime.
You may not.
Yeah, but at least you know that things get better.
Right.
And you know that it's already changed, it's already improved.
Right.
And that's worth all the effort that you take. So what we are trying to do right now is to make the education more meaningful for the student.
Go ahead.
We want to start with the student why, the student purpose first.
Oh, okay.
That's why I create a V-Space.
Go ahead.
To help the student gain self-actualization.
Right.
To know what is the why for them to learn.
Okay, what's that process? In other words, how do you go through that at scale?
Yeah. Actually, we have to trade off with the quality.
Yeah, there's always a trade-off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I want it to be like accessible everywhere in Thailand.
Right.
So I made it as a platform, an online platform.
Okay.
Actually, it's a website.
WeSpace.
Yeah, WeSpace is a website. So the student can go to that website, and we have four features on the website. The first one is, we call it E1, the evaluation.
Okay.
In this part, the student can go on to a journey that they have to do the test, and then they will gain the result that help them get more self-actualization.
Right. So really to understand who they are. How do you get them into WeSpace in the first place? Like, how do they even know it's there?
Actually, WeSpace is like my dream. I really want everyone to gain self-actualization and know what they are good at or what they are into.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I try to find a team that can develop the assessment.
Right.
And then I found my co-founder.
Okay.
One of them, she is a psychologist.
Yep. Important.
So her strength is on academic research and also develop the assessment.
Okay, that's really important. But I guess my question was, let's say I'm a student and I'm upcountry. Yeah. How do I know that WeSpace even exists? In other words, what's the discoverability aspect?
I just understand your question. Sorry. Okay. Actually, we didn't do the marketing much. We just use our network to spread out the news about WeSpace.
Got it. Okay.
We work a lot with our partners. For example, like the OBEC.
What's that?
OBEC is the Office of Basic Education.
Got it. Okay.
They have like a unit for the school guidance.
Understood.
And we partner with them.
Okay.
And we like kind of inform the school guidance teacher that we have WeSpace.
Okay.
And they can use it for free, of course.
Of course.
As one of the tools to help their students gain self-actualization and learn more about career.
Okay. And when you see students go through WeSpace, do you feel them changing?
Yeah, of course.
Tell me how. In other words...
But I can't tell that everyone that uses WeSpace.
Of course not. But I mean, when you see a student change, what's the impact of them, of that self-actualization and self-awareness that you see?
Yeah, I have one example that really touched my mind.
Go ahead.
I went on a workshop with a student, and one of the students said that she really upset because her parents want her to be a dentist.
Okay.
But she didn't want to.
Okay.
And she said that she wants to be a singer.
Okay.
And after we organized the workshop and let her use WeSpace, and after we end the workshop, she raised her hand and shared her experience.
Go ahead.
She said that right now she didn't upset anymore because she learned that she doesn't have to choose between a dentist or a singer.
Right.
She can blend it together.
Fair enough.
Because she loves her parents so much.
Right.
So she thinks she's gonna be a dentist, but she will still sing the song that she loves.
Right.
And she wants to be a dentist who sings song for her patient.
But isn't this so this kind of self-actualization is actually really important, but also the idea that, and I want to talk about this in more detail, right? The idea that you can do the things you love, but also do things that provide an earning at the same time. Like you don't have to do just one thing in life.
Yeah,
that's hard to teach, right? I think. Is that fair?
I think it is.
So why do you think, because we touched this earlier, but we didn't go so deep, but why do you think that most students who go through the Thai educational system kind of aren't already self-actualized? Is it an education problem? Is it a cultural issue? Where does it come from?
I think it comes from a lot of factors.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both education system and also the expectation that people put on the student and even the culture also.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So I think in order to change the education system as a whole, you need to like improve every stakeholder and factor involved.
Right.
For example, you can't just change the standard curriculum and hope that everything will get better.
No.
Because the teachers still have a lot of paperwork. So they don't have time for their student and don't have time to innovate like new way of teaching.
Right.
So if you want to like improve the education system, you need to improve every factor and stakeholder involved.
So does EdVisory work on that as well? In other words, are you trying to automate some of the processes that teachers have to do, whether it's curriculum making or syllabus building or test grading, right? I have friends that are college professors and they spend hours grading, right? reading books and books and books it's just hours of grading, right? And they don't mind doing it so much, but is there a way to automate those processes so they can focus more on teaching and also adapting it to a new curriculum?
Yeah, that is what we are trying to do, but we know that only one organization or an individual can't change like the whole system.
Right.
So we are trying to work with all the network that we can.
Okay.
We also have a group called Edupreneur.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a group that gathers together the entrepreneurs who work in education sectors.
Okay.
I mean, if you are interested in improving education, you are very welcome. There are a lot of room for you to improve.
There's been, obviously with COVID, right? There's been a lot of focus on ed tech or education technology, which is slightly different, but not so different actually than what you're talking about, this Edupreneur program, right? Whether it's companies like Skill Lane that are trying to teach people specific skills, or other companies globally like Udemy and Khan Academy. But with COVID and maybe people maybe afraid to be in larger groups, learning from home is becoming even more significant or more important. Are you working on things like that as well?
Right now, we are not working on the
specific.
Yeah, the specific. Okay. But what we are trying to do is we start with the curriculum first.
Right.
And we hope that after the curriculum change, the way that teacher teach students need to change to the way they assess student has to change too.
Right. Which means then you have to change the way those teachers are taught to teach.
And then we hope that everything will change accordingly. So it's like we just go a step by step.
Right. Do you look at models around the world and try to say like this works well in company X and this works, country X and this works well in country Y, and then try to adapt those things? Is that part of your research?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
But it's quite difficult because the context of the country is different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, everyone likes to talk about the education system in Singapore, the education system in Denmark or Finland. Yeah, like Finland is known for its great education system, but then Finnish people are different than Thai people.
Yeah, that's right.
So it doesn't always, it's not always one for one working, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, go ahead. You were going to say? Because you can learn things from them, but it may not be 100% relevant, yeah?
Yeah, so you have to adapt what you research to what actually happened in Thailand, and that is the most difficult part.
Yeah, I think it's really hard, right? Because you have to understand how to get what they're doing well overseas and bring it home and adapt it. And it's not just changing it into Thai. We talk about this a lot, like localization doesn't just mean switching the language.
Yeah, you're right.
Right, for sure. So you talk a little bit about having a student come in and being self-aware and their self-actualization is really important. Does education personalization matter? Is it something that's possible or?
I hope that it will be possible like soon.
Soon.
But right now it still seems so impossible.
But I mean, everything seems impossible in the startup world, right? That's why you do
until it's done.
Until it's done, right? I mean, everything seems impossible.
But I think personalized education is important because students are different. We are not in the age of like industrial revolution anymore.
Right, where everyone just does one thing.
Yeah, so we don't have to make everything standardized.
Fair enough.
We should focus on students as individuals.
Okay.
And try to like help them find their best potential.
When you're doing your research, and it's an important point, I think, to find their best potential, you talk to educators, you do research overseas, you talk to the Ministry of Education. Do you talk to the students as well?
Yeah, sure.
And what kind of feedback do they give you? Because you talk about the best students obviously are going to give you different feedback than the students that leave school during that time, I don't remember what you called it, so they can go work with their family or drive a motorcycle, right? Yeah. What's the feedback you get?
I mean, you mean on education system?
Yes.
Can I?
You can say whatever you want.
I'm not so sure. They think that Thai education is poor quality.
That's what they think.
Yeah, that's what they think. Okay. That's why they become protesters and have to fight for their own future.
Got it. Okay.
As you can see in the news right now.
I can see it, yeah.
Yeah, because they don't see hope.
That's really interesting.
In their future.
Yeah. As a foreigner, I don't see that as much, but I can understand the perspective.
Yeah, and I think it's our responsibility, like, for the adult to help them to see hope in their future.
Yeah, because without hope, then there's no activity.
Yeah.
Right? If you just give up, if you just resign to the fact that nothing's going to get better, then you may as well just become a motorcycle driver. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about the startup ecosystem? And because at its core, like EdVisory and even WeSpace is operated like a startup, right? Mm-hmm. When did it start?
3 years ago.
3 years ago. And how many people are there inside the company?
Right now we have 20 something full time.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and another 20 or more than that part time.
That's interesting. Did you raise any money to do this, or were you just bootstrapping the whole time? I guess you have business with the government and some other institutions that pay you for research and things, right?
I mean, major part of the money that we use is from bootstrapping.
Okay.
But some part also from the grant.
Got it.
That granted by the government.
Good stuff. Okay. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges that you face as a startup? Like bootstrapping's hard.
Yeah, bootstrapping.
Particularly when there are 20 full-time people and maybe twice as many of those that are part-time. I mean, it's just hard work. So what are some of the challenges that you face?
Well, being a startup is a challenge anywhere in the world. But being a startup in Thailand is like in another level of difficulty. I mean,
another level.
Yeah, there are reasons behind that. The first reason is that I think the startup ecosystem in Thailand is not that well established.
Got it.
I think I will talk about this in detail later.
Please.
And second, I think it's because that as a startup, you work with uncertainty every day.
Every single day.
Yeah, and you have to balance between like a good product or services and the resource that you have to invest it in.
Right. I mean, there's some Pareto principle part of this, right? It's like you cannot get 100% right. Is 80% good enough?
Yeah.
Right? You have to think about it that way as well.
And in order to balance that, I think it's important for you to create like a real innovation.
Sure.
That someone can't easily imitate your product.
Right.
The problem right now in Thailand is that it's a game of money subsidized game kind of thing.
How so?
As you can see, for example, Shopee and Lazada, they have to like subsidize the shipping fee and also give away the discount coupon, like a lot of the money that they have to invest in order to gain the user.
Right, even Grab gives me incentives
every
day.
Even Grab and
Grab food
Uber.
and Uber and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? What's your view on that though?
I think it's not healthy for me.
But tell me why. I have my own ideas, so I can share them with you, but I'm curious about yours. What's your view on all those subsidies?
I mean, it's like a money game. When you run out of money, there will be like another player come into the market with a lot of capital to dump the market. Right,
so Lazada obviously has never made a profit.
Yeah.
And if you listen to me talk about startups at scale, you'll hear me say this all the time. Shopee came out of nowhere, right? From the old Garena into what's now called C. You can just spin up an e-commerce company from nowhere if you have the money to do it. And to me, it's like throwing good money after bad. Because if your whole business is predicated on the fact that you just have subsidized businesses, you're never going to make any money.
Yeah.
Because a subsidy is like a drug you give somebody and then expect them to wean off the drug.
Yeah.
My feeling is it's never going to happen.
Yeah, I think they hope that one day they will become like a monopoly in the market, and that is when they can make money, because the user they don't have choice anymore. But I don't think so, because after they become a monopoly, there will be a new user come to the market for sure.
So we saw the same thing, right? When Uber became a 25% shareholder in Grab, there was a gap. There was a vacuum, and who filled the vacuum? Gojek comes in and fills the vacuum.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, and the same thing, Shopee looks at Lazada and says, wait a second, they have 25% discounts or 10% discount. Let's do 17% discount, right? And then you had, what was it called, 11th Street come in from Korea and from SK Telecom and say, we'll do more. And actually, we'll just give stuff away to get more customers. In the end, it doesn't work. It's like a restaurant that gives food away for free and expect you to come back. Right. So what do you think needs to change? Like, because you've given a great explanation of what I think the startup ecosystem looks like, and I don't disagree with you, to be fair. Do you think it's changed over time?
Maybe a little bit.
Maybe a little bit, but not enough?
Yeah, but not enough for me. That's why I start with education sector, because I think human capital is the most important thing for a country.
Yeah,
if you invest in human capital and they can like create a real innovation for the country, I think it's gonna be like a big success for that country. For example, like Google, no one can copy it.
Right. Well, they can. Have you read the book Googleplex? Inside the Googleplex? You should read it, actually. It's really interesting. Google's technology in and of itself is not that great. And AdWords was actually not invented by Google. They bought that company, whose name, DoubleClick, I think, was the name of the company that they bought. Google's moat, the moat around their business is 20 years of accumulated data that they will not sell to anybody and you can't buy today. So to catch up to them, you'd have to go back to the past and accumulate another 20-something years of data. Is the premise of this book. One of the premises. You should read it, actually, because it's really interesting. And I think it won't take you that long to read. And you'll just learn about that idea around Google. But they didn't invent search at any level. But they ended up doing some things that were innovative and better, right? The page theory algorithms that they invented at the beginning and also the new algorithms they have today. In your view, though, what would have to change in Thailand? What is the game changer? And it can be a few things. I'm curious, when you look at not just the startup ecosystem, but even the entire system as a whole, what has to change?
I think there are a lot of things that need to change.
Tell me.
Need to be changed. But one of them, I think, is the government policy.
Around?
I think they should support the startup more.
Startups more?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because as you can see, like 20 years ago, if you compare the entertainment industry between Thai and South Korean, I think they were pretty similar back then in terms of like the target market. They focus on domestic and also the technology and the quality. We were pretty much the same back then. Okay. But I think it's because the government, they support the entertainment industry in Korea.
So that's why you get K-pop and
that's why K-pop and K-drama become like so famous and can make a lot of money for South Korea right now. I think if Thai government can define like what we are good at and what we can do well, and then they support, like put the full support in that industry, I think it's gonna make a huge change.
So I want to ask another question about education. And we talked before about how you cannot make an equivalency between education systems in other countries and Thailand. But what you can do is see the impact that having a strong education system can have on any particular country. Right? So you can go back to Japan after World War II. They implemented a very strict education system, and that led to a lot of the innovation that happened in Japan in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Now maybe it's getting weaker because that just happens over time. But Singapore actually, which is a much smaller country, said, we're going to get educated in English. It's going to take a generation to change. And Lee Kuan Yew said, we're going to have the best education system in the world. And it literally took Singapore from being like a small fishing country into a global financial center. So the impact can be seen. Yeah. Yeah? Anyway, what do you think?
I think for Singapore, it might be easier to happen because
small.
Yeah, because
easier to manage.
Yeah, small, easy to manage.
And there was nothing there,
yeah. But for Thailand, I think it's quite difficult.
It is
because we are quite a large country comparing to Singapore.
Sure. The point I was trying to make was that the impact can be there. If you change the education system, the impact is obvious and easy to see. Yeah. Yeah,
but it's a lot of things that need to be done.
Absolutely.
And it's a long way to go, for sure.
It sounds like you're really busy.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think it's worthwhile.
I definitely think it's worthwhile too. I want to thank you for coming in and doing this today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me today.
It's my pleasure.
I enjoyed it very much.
I hope so.